Hey, today I'm gonna show you how I film and set up my podcast and how I go from this basic setup to this one, which is a little bit more cinematic. So let's break it down. I'm gonna share with you today all the gear that I use and how I use it. I'm gonna explain what I use and why. But obviously, this is my style and what I like. You don't need to completely copy paste it. You can do your own thing. But yeah, if you do want to copy paste exactly what I'm doing, that's the video to do it.
Damn it, you are handsome.
I'm gonna go through the gear, but I'm not going to dive deep in each one since there are so many of them. So if you want me to create a specific video about a specific item or gear, let me know in the comments. I'll also have the prices for each gear I'm talking about somewhere in the screen. It's start of 2026, so those are the prices right now. And at the end, I'll have also the total amount. Having said that, I definitely want to make clear that you don't really need all of this in order to start. I definitely didn't have this in the beginning. So I'm going to also give you some alternative to buy cheaper gear right now and what I think you'll need or don't need if you're starting right now. Let's start with the cameras. So I did start with the Canon 600D, a very old, crop, and not so good camera, to be honest. Main issue with it, for me at least, wasn't the quality, but that it shoots only for 15 minutes. So I had only one camera and I needed to get up and hit record every time. If you also have a Canon camera, even the new ones could stop at 30 minutes. So what I did was having a timer on my phone, and I needed to, in order to remind me, and don't forget to hit record again. And I think for me it was okay. I was like used to it, but for the guest it's super annoying and unprofessional. But again, this is what I had at the time and what I used. Even the second camera that you can see in the first videos, I borrowed this from my friend Thanos. So yeah, thank you for that. Most of the gear in the beginning was borrowed actually. I didn't have the money to buy all of those. So now we do have 3 cameras in the podcast, which is amazing. And the best thing for me right now is that all 3 of them are Sony cameras. They can record forever and I don't need to get up to change that. And also the color coding for all of those are the same since they're Sony cameras, and that's also good for color correction later on. So the main one, which I use pretty much for all my videos, is the newest one that I have, is the Sony A7C. It's the one that you can see me usually. And the reason I'm using this one for me is that it's because it has good autofocus, and during the podcast I could need to go around, move, and this way I know it's gonna have focus on me, where the other 2, I set up the focus for the guest beforehand and I know it's locked there. And the lens I'm using on this one is the Sigma 35mm 1.4. The second camera, where you can see the guest normally, is the Sony A7R II. It's a little bit older as a camera, but it's a full frame, really good quality, and I'm using the Sigma 24mm 1.4. Again, those are the lenses that I already have, so this is why I'm using those. I bought the A7R II used, but in a very good condition. It was actually almost new and unused. But I did find it in a good price.
See it, there are 3 possibilities. 1, you stole it.
And then the center camera, where you can see both me and the guest, it's the Sony A6400. It's a crop camera, but I think it does a really good job. And this was actually sponsored from my friend James, who was in the podcast not long ago. So thanks a lot, man. The lens I'm using for this one is the Tamron 17-28 f2.8. The reason I'm using this lens is, again, this is what I have, and I'm using this one because it's the widest lens I have And this is a crop camera. I'm using it in the 17 millimeters, but I think on the crop that's probably around 24. Correct me if I'm wrong in the comments, but yeah, it will, like, if it was a full frame, it will be like using a 24 millimeters. So I think that's pretty good. I have the center one in the center a little bit higher than the others, so we can see also a little bit the table and the painting and everything, and the microphones and maybe the stuff that we have here. And the other two main cameras are in an angle of 24 degrees from the table, looking at me and then the guest. And then usually I place myself and the guest at the 1/3 of the image, and I leave the other space, free to breathe. And usually you can also see a little bit, like if we are moving our hands, you can probably see that in the frame. And I think that makes it super interesting for me. For the settings, I'm shooting at 24K. Main reason I'm doing this is because I can frame a little bit wider and then in post-production, cut a little bit inside, rotate, and make sure I have exactly what I want. By the way, if you want me to make another video and showcase how I edit those video podcasts and you're not sure how to do it yourself, happy to do a video about that, so let me know in the comments. And for the cinematic look, I'm always going for 24 FPS, and then the shutter speed is 150. Aperture, I'm usually going for 1.8 or 2 on the two main cameras. I can go down to 1.4. This is what I did in the beginning, but now I'm avoiding it. One, because sometimes it could lose focus and it's super hard to get a very good accurate focus on 1.4, but as well because I think the lens is sharper if you go a little bit higher. And then for the center one is 2.8, so this is what I'm using. And the ISO, usually it's at 250, maybe 300 on this one. I'm unsure, but it's around those numbers. Now let's move to what I think is the most important thing if you're doing a video podcast, which is the lighting. Not only because it's going to create some visual interest in the environment and it's gonna create some feeling depending on what you're going for, but the other thing that it can do well, if you haven't noticed, is that right now I'm filming with my phone. So if we go back and forth to my main expensive camera and my phone, you can kind of see the difference. If we zoom in, you can probably see the difference for sure. Mainly what I'm trying to explain here is that if you have some good lighting, then it doesn't really matter what camera you use. Obviously, having a more expensive one, it's gonna look way better. It's going to feel better, but if right now you don't have one and you just have your phone, you can still use that.
My phone's broken.
Or an older camera and upgrade as you go. Okay, so let's talk about lighting. The most important one in the room is the main one, which is this one, the one just above me. This is the most important light when you're creating your setup. And this should be the brightest light in the room. I love putting it above us. It creates for me that interrogation filming look, and then you can have the back a little bit darker. So the main light is the Amaran 200XS, but I used to use a very cheap softbox light with bulbs from Amazon, and it wasn't even mine. Again, my friend Thanos was borrowing his, especially if you go back to the first podcast and you move through, you can see the difference. Like the first one, we were in the kitchen of his house, of Thanos' house, and we didn't want to showcase it's a kitchen, so we put like a white backdrop, and we just had that one softbox light, and this is what I used mostly. Then I bought one of mine and use it here. I have this one in the last podcast for the last year, so not very, it's super recent, so I think you can definitely start with a cheaper one, see how it goes, and then upgrade. Definitely recommend the softbox light for sure, because it's gonna soften the light as it's implying. For this one, I'm using the Aputure Light Dome SE. SE does a very good job. It's kind of big, but yeah, I love it. And I also have a grid on it. The grid is those black squares, and basically it's making the light stay just here and doesn't spill all around the room. So if I didn't have this, it's going to spill also in the background, and I want to keep that dark. So yeah, this is why I have the grid, so I definitely recommend it, even for a cheaper light. It depends on what you want to create as a style. You could have this one on the side, or you could have two lights. You could have a fill light, again, depending on the mood that you're going for. And a fill light basically fills out the shadows that the main light creates. And the hack I'm using here is, because this table has a glass on top, it basically reflects a lot of the light back. So it's basically acting like a fill light. And I also use this cloth here a little bit for decoration and to place things on top, but also to stop a little bit of reflection. So depending on your setup and what you're doing, you can use your environment in your advantage and use things not only in terms of how they look and decoration, but also to be functional. Moving on, the next lights will be the background lights. And those are a little bit of like practical lights. You don't really need them, but they do give like an ambience in the background. And you can create some interesting patterns with the shadows in the background and everything around it. I use the Aputure MC on this side, but in this side I just have like a usual light bulb. If you do use like a random lamp, make sure it doesn't flicker when you're shooting the video. Otherwise, it's gonna be super annoying. So that's the only thing. Like if you use a professional light, it's not going to flicker. If you don't have them, you don't really need to spend money on those yet. But if you do, yeah, obviously it's way better. Next thing is some tube lamps I'm using on the side, and those have a grid on top. Again, for the same reason, I'm using a grid here, so it can direct the light directly on me and doesn't spill all around the place. Those are the Ambitful RGB tube lights. They're super cheap, actually, and they do their job, which is to create this thin line of color and separate me from the background a little bit. The one thing I recommend is using the same temperature you're using with your practicals. If it mimics that light, it's motivated by the other one, which is makes more sense when you're watching at the image. My only mistake is that in some podcasts, I do tend to put those a little bit brighter than I should. And then when I go to post-production, I see that it's maybe too much. So my recommendation is you don't really need those to be like very high intensity. Those are not super necessary in the beginning. You can do without them. I just added them in the last podcasts. And then the last one that is definitely not necessary, but it's my favorite one, it's the one in the background, which is the black UV light. And it highlights this painting that I made. I bring a lot of creatives in this podcast, so I definitely want to have something creative in the background. And also in video, if you look at the wall, it creates that blue light, which is kind of opposite with the practical light that we have. And for me, it makes it more interesting. The main goal for me for the lighting is to be cinematic, have the main source of light to me and the guest, and keep the background a little bit darker and more mysterious, while using some practical lights here and there. And eventually I would love to upgrade to an all Aputure ecosystem. I love those lights, and it's super easy for me to actually use the app on my phone and control all of the lights independently and play around. So if all of them are this, I don't need to get to the light to change something. I can do it from my phone while I'm also looking at the screen of the camera and make sure that it works without needing to go there and change stuff. Especially for this one, I need to climb on the chair to change it since it's up there. So yeah, it makes more sense. But yeah, eventually, as I said, I'm upgrading as I go. So the audio is the most important thing. in podcasts, obviously. If you're doing a video podcast, yeah, you need to set up the cameras and everything. But most people are gonna listen to the podcast, so obviously you need good audio as well. So, was I recording all this time? I was.
Oh, thank God.
That's good. This is gonna be a long video, by the way.
Okay, fine, I'm cool, I'm fine.
So obviously we're gonna start with the microphones. Before I talk about those, so I started with the Rode Go microphone, which is a shotgun that you put on your camera and you usually film vlogs. This is what I have back then. Thanos, my friend, has another one, so I was borrowing his to have two microphones basically. They're not meant for this, but this is what I had and this is what I use. And usually when you're close to the microphone, it still sounds good. What I will recommend instead of those will be the wireless Go, Rode Go 2 or 3 version, or any other 2 channels, so you can feed that to the same video, but you have one for each person, so you can separate the microphones basically, and edit in post-production separately the sound. And also it's super good for traveling, so if you're doing podcasts while you travel, this is what I recommend. This is what I will probably use because I don't want to carry around those when I'm traveling far away. So let's talk about those microphones now. So those are not the Shure SM7B. If I did trick you, thank you very much. Those are the Shure SM58, and they don't look like it if you know what I'm talking about, because I did change their appearance. So let's talk about those two. The SM58 is a very good microphone, and if you search a little bit online on YouTube about them, you're gonna find a lot of people comparing them. And actually there is a video where they do some modifications and they make them sound exactly the same. The main difference is that one of the two is super expensive. And especially if you want to have 2 or 3 of them, then the budget is super high. I went for the SM58. The only thing I didn't like was the actual look of it, because it looks like if you ask a 5-year-old to draw a microphone, this is how it's gonna look like.
This'll scare him.
Oh my gosh! A floating shopping list!
And I didn't like it. So basically this is a custom 3D print enclosure with my logo as well on it, which make it even more personal. And those filters made from foam are from the SM7B actually. But again, you don't need to use the expensive ones. You can definitely find something online and you can buy them in different colors, have fun, play around, and create, the style that you want. And this is what I like about doing this, that I actually prefer this because I can print those, remove the microphone, change it, have different colors or different design, and have whatever I want to and make them more custom to what I'm doing. And even people that are coming to the podcast think that those are made from metal. By the way, if you do want a video about those, again, let me know in the comments. If there's interest, maybe I'll make a quick video on how I build those. Now understand that not everyone can or wants to build a custom microphone, so I'll recommend also the RØDE PodMic, which if you're in a budget, it's a good microphone and it looks good. Next gear is where we're recording, and this is the Zoom PodTrak P4. I love this thing. I think it's undervalued for what it is, because the next thing that can do the same thing is the one from Rode, which is way more expensive. It's big, and I probably need to have my laptop with me when I'm filming, which is super annoying. Where this one is so small, it's lightweight, it's battery powered and portable, so I can bring it with me and film anywhere I want. and I don't even need to plug it in anywhere. Right now I do have it plugged in on the wall, but I do have also the batteries in there. So if somehow if I remove the cable or something happens, I'm not going to lose or stop the recording. It's gonna keep going on batteries. It can take up to 4 microphones. I think this is amazing for the price. So if you would like to go on a budget and you're looking for a good recording device, I think this is the one I would recommend first. Then I also use the Triton Fed head. Those basically gives you clear gain and less noise. You don't really need them. I didn't use them in the beginning, but if you're in an urban area like I am, then there is a lot of environment noise, depending on the day and time that you're filming, obviously. If you do end up using those, remember that you'll need to also activate phantom power on your device. Fortunately, PodTrak do has that. Just remember to turn the gain into 0 before starting and then switch it on. I did find that it's super helpful not to need to give a lot of gain either on the PodTrak, either in post-production, and it creates less noise, but it's an extra expense that you don't really need in the beginning, especially for those microphones. If you go for the expensive ones, then you definitely need to give some boost. The thing is that when you buy one expensive thing, this creates a domino effect and you need more expensive things to go along with it. And then for headphones, I'm using those JBL Tune 500, super cheap, something just to have to listen to ourselves, which can be a little bit weird in the beginning, but those are super cheap, so I definitely recommend to buy those headphones or any other headphones that you like. Thought in the beginning we don't need them, but it's super helpful again, because especially with a guest, sometimes they tend to be more nervous, so they're gonna hit the table or the microphone and touch things. When they don't have the headphones, they don't listen to this, so they keep doing it. But when they do hear that noise, it's easier to stop it without me needing to say anything. Also, they tend to be closer to the microphone, as we said. This is the best way to do it because they cannot hear themselves if they move very far away from the microphone. So yeah, you can hear yourself. And then the other good thing is that we tend to speak less on top of each other, because again, you're trying to hear what the other person is saying, so we don't cut off each other, which without headphones, it's something normal that we do in our everyday conversations and we don't realize. In terms of the placement of the microphones, I have them in 45 degrees away from the camera, of course, because if it was in this side, it's gonna cover my face, so I place it on this side for me and this side from my guest. And it's I try to be as close as possible. They say usually 1 fist away, but this actually, because I build it, the microphone sits around here a little bit further away, so if you go closer, basically that's 1 fist away, and the closer you are, the better radio voice you're gonna have.
Is that my voice? Is that my voice?
Let's go to tripods. For the main camera, I'm using the Peak Design travel tripod. Super light, super easy to use, but I already had that. This is why I'm using it. For the other 2 cameras, I'm actually using some cheap Amazon tripods that I think normally are for lights, but I love them because they have a very small footprint, they're cheap, and they're very easy to store away when I'm done. And then I have 2 more of those that I'm using for the 2 tube lights, and they are going a little bit higher so I can have that light from the top. And then the stands for the microphones are from RØDE. Very good quality, I like them. If I will upgrade in the future, probably it will be an arm that comes from like behind or somewhere that it's not sitting on the table. This is pretty good, but sometimes when you hit the table, it can absorb that noise, where if you have something that's not touching the table, then it's even better and it's easier to place around. But again, those are doing the job for now. In all of those tripods, I'm using a Zedio ball head to be able to move around the camera or the microphones wherever I want to. And then on top of that, I have an outdoor release clip, which is for the cameras, pretty cheap on Amazon. And basically those can mount any kind of plate you have. I do use the Peak Design plates because I also use it with other gear I have when I'm filming. The plate in every camera is a Peak Design one. And then for the main light, I'm using a heavy-duty C-stand with the pole being the same brand. This is a little bit more to the expensive side, especially if you think it's for a tripod. But before that, with the cheap softbox, I had a cheaper tripod and a cheaper boom pole. But this light is super heavy, so you need also heavy-duty tripod to hold it. And again, this is the domino effect of thinking of I'm gonna just buy the more expensive light, but now you also need to buy a more expensive C-stand and a more expensive boom pole, and also extra weight, because I'm also using a lot of sandbags for safety, as well as a chain at the end of the boom pole with some extra weight, because again, this is super heavy, and when you expand it, it becomes even heavier. So you need something to counterweight that. I think this is a good investment to have, because you don't want this to fall down and break. Or fall on you or your guest. So definitely invest on those. Finally, let's go to the smaller stuff, which is XLR cables for the microphones. You can buy them in different colors and have fun. I definitely will go at least to the medium price point for those. You don't want to go for the cheap ones. I hear this all the time from people going for cheap cables. Like, you invest on having good microphones or gear or whatever, and then you are chipping out on the cables, and then you get noise or whatever to your footage. So you don't need to buy the more expensive one, but you shouldn't also go for the cheapest one. And then I also have a lot of USB-C cables for all the things around lights to the recording device and everything. All of those actually work with batteries, so you don't really need cables, but I do like to have them plugged in and be sure that I don't need to charge them during the podcast, and we don't need to stop and interrupt it. With the same logic, I use dummy batteries for my cameras, and those are like fake batteries that go into the camera, and then you have a cable that plugs into the wall, and then you have infinite power forever. So I do use those for the exact same reason. I like the Tessan power strip, and I use one with USB ports. Most of the things are plugged into USB-C, and I use this to have it closer to the gear. I don't like to have a lot of cables going all around the place. I try to bring them all into one spot and have the power strip there, and then just one cable going across the room. Talking about that, I'm using gaffer tape to cover it so no one trips over it. Maybe you know about it, but your guest doesn't. And when they come here, maybe they're gonna trip and they're gonna injure themselves.
Ow! My sperm!
Or even if they don't, maybe they're gonna break the gear, so you don't want that. So at least use tape over the cables so this doesn't happen. Next step is to actually 3D print those covers that goes over the cables and have a more professional look over them. So yeah, for me, I do like those small details. And even if you cannot really see those in camera, maybe you'll think, why investing time and money into those? But makes the experience and the feeling of filming way better. Even if you don't have a guest to come over, I think it makes the experience better for yourself. To close up, this is the total amount for the gear right now. Obviously, this is gonna go even higher through the years.
Shut up and take my money.
You don't need to start with this budget. You can start way lower. You could even start with zero with what you have right now. Just start and improve as you go. This is what I was doing through the years. Like, if you go back to my first podcast and you go through them, you can see the improvement. And I'm gonna probably try to improve as I go as well. And I'm improving my gear also as a filmmaker in general. And then I use them also in the podcast. So sometimes I don't buy things just for the podcast. And if you need more details on any of the gear, let me know in the comments and I'll probably make a video around it. Thank you for staying until the end for this video. It has been a long one for sure, but I wanted to try and cover as much as I can to help you out. And if you do end up building a similar podcast setup, or you get inspired from it and build something, feel free to send me that over social media or tag me. I'll be super happy to see it. I hope this was helpful and I'll see you in the next video or podcast. And this is Lights Out.